find classical music tough. I'll be back. We will start shortly. There are people still coming in. Okay, everyone. I hope everyone's blood pressure has gone down. Hopefully it stays that way throughout this meeting. I want to welcome everyone to the December 8th, 2020 meeting of Faculty Council. Roll call is being taken as we speak. Please vote on the poll that you see. Everyone should be voting. Everyone who attends, whether you're voting or not, including administration, please mark their presence. Just to remind you that we are operating under the governor's executive order that allows us to have these meetings remotely, electronically, provided that the meeting is being recorded, which it is, as you can see by the upper left-hand corner of your Zoom screen, and that it is being streamed live, and it is doing that as well. So we have the public at large able to come to this meeting. We will be doing all voting by means of polls. For all future votes, it will be only voting members. So if you're not a voting member, i.e. an administrator, please don't vote, and we will review the voting list later, but I'm going to assume that only members are voting. Okay, I'm going to leave the roll call up for a while, and the next thing on the agenda is the minutes of the November 17th, 2020. Professor Nadel. Professor Nadel?
Yes, I'm here. Everybody, you should have received the minutes in the packet. Are there any corrections or changes? Okay, then.
Well, if there are no changes, discussions, I will simply ask, is there anyone who opposes the adoption of the minutes as submitted? Is there anyone who abstains? Hearing no abstentions or opposition, we will accept the minutes as written by acclamation. And Professor Nadel, please enter that into the. We come now to the report from the steering committee. The first thing on the agenda is the election for 2 members to the Committee on Committees. You recall that this is the committee that assembles and presents nominations for faculty council committees for the coming year. The 2 individuals whose term expires are Professor Charrier and Fisher, both of whom are able to be renominated. Professor Fisher has indicated that he is not running at this point. Existing members on the committee are Professor Esty, Professor Kavanaugh, Professor Florence, and Professor Levy. We will have 2 elections. We will first have an election after I hear nominations, and the number 1 person will be elected. And then we will have another election where, once again, we'll vote, and the person who is the highest person will be elected for the second seat. After the meeting, there will be a Zoom meeting among the members of the committees who will choose who will be the chair among themselves. So, in that case, we open for nominations for the members of the 2 members of the Committee on Committees. I will do my best to keep up and then create the poll. Please unmute yourself if you have a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Professor Cherrier from Environmental Sciences.
Okay, Professor Cherrier. Are there any other nominations? Remember, this individual must be a member of Faculty Council. You have to nominate someone, because this will haunt you every meeting until we find someone willing to serve. You can self-nominate.
Do we need more than one person to nominate for one of the positions?
No. If only 2 people will serve, then I will just say the election is done. If we have 3 people, then we have to have an election. So far, I only have 1 person. If we have 1 more person, then we can end this. If we have 3 people, then we have to have, formally the election.
I'd like to nominate Alan Aha.
Professor Aha, do you accept?
I respect the nomination, but I must respectfully decline.
Okay, first of all, Professor Aha is on the steering committee.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Not appropriate that someone should be on the steering committee as also on the Committee on Committees.
Good point.
Professor Klein, would you like to self-nominate yourself?
I've just self-nominated.
Very good. That's excellent, because we could use someone from the school, the Copeland School, to help get members on committees. Okay, I'm going to ask for 3 more times for nominations. Are there any more nominations? Are there any additional nominations? Don't everybody run forward to nominate. Any more nominations? Hearing none, I will move the nominations closed. We have filled the seats, and therefore I will ask the secretary to cast a single vote for both candidates. I want to thank both Professor Cherrier and Professor Klein for graciously agreeing to serve on this very, very, very important committee. Thank you. Okay, we now move to the next item, which you should have received an email. Last Friday, the Cuny-Wide faculty governance leaders, which is all the leaders of the faculty councils, the Senate, their senates, whatever governance they have, and that's me and all the other members from each school, endorsed almost unanimously, near unanimous endorsement of a CUNY faculty governance leader statement on class size. I do want to show it to you, and this appears before you as a second nomination, a seconded motion from the steering committee, and I'll ask you to discuss, and then I'll put up a poll asking you to vote. So allow me to share my screen and make this just a little bit larger so that you can all see it. Come on. Why is my machine?
This computer stuff is hard, did you?
It is, and it doesn't listen to me. Do you know, in the middle of my department meeting, I lost all internet access in my house. This was really embarrassing. Okay, anyway, this should become bigger still. Okay, I think you should better read it. Basically, the whereas is, we obviously are all dedicated to student success. Student success is linked to effective instruction. Faculty-student interaction in a fully online class is an important feature for successful outcomes. There is research showing that smaller classes lead to significant improvement in student performance and retention. Effective instruction, the optimal size of both online and on-campus classes is a pedagogical matter best left to faculty. The optimal size of both online and on-campus classes will vary with due consideration for student needs, faculty concerns, and the interests of the college. Different academic disciplines hold different expectations for class sizes, and in some disciplines, disciplinary professional organizations recommend optimal class sizes. Research recommends online class sizes that are much smaller than current CUNY practices and stipulates a cap of 28 for most online classes and lower caps for classes that are designated as writing intensive and so on. The nationally recognized and CUNY celebrated online courses at the School of Professional Studies operate with a limit of 25. The CUNY Board of Trustees has not established guidelines in this matter, and it is just thus a matter for faculty academic judgment. Under CUNY Board of Trustees bylaws 8.5 and 8.6, each college shall have faculty or academic council, that's us, which shall be the primary body responsible for formulating policy and academic matters. Therefore, as you can see, the Council of Faculty Governance Leaders propose that each CUNY unit adopt as academic policy that each academic department and program have the right and authority to set minimum and maximum class sizes for best pedagogical practice with its own class offerings, both online and on campus, in accordance with all applicable city, state, and federal statutes. And I sent this out to you, and you may look at the references at your own time if you haven't yet already. I therefore open the discussion for discussion, and then I will call for a vote. Is there any discussion? Someone, you may unmute yourself at will. I'm not checking to see if hands are up. And I should have mentioned this earlier. Whatever is in the chat is not officially part of the record. So we're not looking at this. Hearing no.
Sorry,
Yes.
I have something to say to just Jillian.
Go ahead, Jillian.
I just want to say that at 2 chairs lunches ago, all of the chairs in at Brooklyn College focused in on class size as one thing that would really, really help us as faculty, as chairs, and also help our students. So this is something that the chairs at Brooklyn College, we hadn't seen this particular thing yet, but just that this is something that chairs all feel really strongly about, that class size is really important.
Thank you. You couldn't have seen this because this was written this past Friday.
Exactly. But this was independently, I just want to say, like, together we came to the conclusion that this was something that was really, really important and would help all of us.
Great minds think alike. Are there any other comments, discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to add, I think it's pretty well established that we have been operating for a long time, at least as long as I've been involved in faculty governance, with the expectation that the faculty of Brooklyn College do in fact have this authority and that we have exercised it. So it is certainly consistent with our past practice.
Indeed, I have stated this many times for the record. Okay, in that case.
Maxim,
Yes, go ahead, Yehuda.
I just want to add, in agreement with all the comments till now, that as we all know, the one prerogative that chairs have is scheduling, and part of that is to set class sizes. So if without being able to set the class sizes based on pedagogy, then our right to schedule is meaningless.
Thank you. Okay, I will launch the polling. Please, this is for voting members only. Wait. This is the wrong poll. Hold on. I'm ending this poll. This is the wrong one. I apologize. This is the right one. Please vote. Anyone else still want to vote? It shouldn't get to 100% because people who are non-voting members are not voting. Okay, hearing none, I will share the results with you. Okay, the results are that 86 people voted yes, 1 person voted no, and 5 people abstained. Okay, so the motion carries. I will report back to the faculty, governance leaders, and the UFS that we have endorsed this recommendation, this statement. I now turn over the floor to communications for the administration, Professor Anderson, President Anderson.
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you all here today. I hope you're doing well as we head into the final segment of the semester. The Faculty Council steering, when we met last week, asked me to address the issue of enrollment, which I know is on everyone's mind of late. I want to give you a little backdrop. Demographic shifts across the country over the past decade have seen fewer students entering K-12. And so there has been a dip that we're now seeing over the past couple of years in the number of 18-year-olds graduating from high schools. We're seeing that both in New York City and across the country. This dip in the number of 18-year-olds graduating from high school is supposed to last until 2027 or 2030, sometime between those periods of time. And as a result of this, at least in part, applicants to the college are down across the CUNY system, applicants to college generally. We're seeing that here at Brooklyn College as well. There's been a particular drop in community college enrollment, which for us affects the transfer student enrollment here at Brooklyn College, because over the past many years, we have had a very large influx of transfer students, and the vast majority of them come from community colleges within the Brooklyn College system. Specifically this fall, that is fall 2020, we brought in a first-year full-time class of over 2,000 students, which was one of our largest first-year full-time classes ever. Our top feeder schools for first-year full-time are Midwood, Fort Hamilton, New Utrecht, Edward R. Murrow, FDR, Madison, and Abraham Lincoln. And a couple of folks have asked specifically about the Brooklyn College Academy, which is the high school that sits on the campus of Brooklyn College. We generally receive about 15 to 20 applications from the Brooklyn College Academy. We're seeking to expand that number. In general, one of the interesting things about these students is that because they've spent 2 years on the campus at Brooklyn College, they often want to attend other colleges. Interestingly, we get a host of them back as transfer students a couple years later. One of our strategic goals this year is to increase the diversity of the first-year full-time incoming class. And we're implementing both a robust new recruitment plan with over 90 recruitment events, most of them at local high schools, and new grassroots marketing. And of course, we're working on a new website, all of which we hope will increase our yield. That is the percentage of students who we admit who end up coming to Brooklyn College. In general, we do have some understanding of those students who are admitted but decide not to come to Brooklyn College. About a quarter of them decide against college altogether. 3/4 of them obviously go to other institutions, and many institutions now are admitting many more of our, and enrolling many more of our admitted students. Stony Brook, Buffalo, NYU, Albany, and Howard, for instance, are all admitting more of our students, or more of the students we admit. And the private colleges are using their endowments to attract students who otherwise I think would be admitted here at Brooklyn College. Additionally, the final element is that California, Florida, and Texas are also using the opportunity to attract more of our admitted students. So we have a challenging enrollment picture overall as a backdrop before we even get to the consequences of the pandemic that we're experiencing, notwithstanding our success in first-time full-time enrollment this fall. In the coming spring 2021, we are currently down about 13% relative to the same time last year in terms of spring enrollment. This is consistent across all senior colleges. At CUNY, we see about a 13% decrease in spring registration. We are engaged in a very focused outreach effort to every single student who's been enrolled in the fall and has yet to register into the spring, trying to determine the reasons for their not registering in the spring, and also to help them overcome the obstacles they face. As you all know, there are challenges related to the pandemic. There are fiscal challenges, health challenges our students face. There is burnout and Zoom exhaustion that our students face, and many of our students are waiting to find out about their grades before they make that decision. We are offering more financial support both for the winter and the spring semesters, and encouraging students to take both winter and spring courses to continue their academic momentum. I'd like to ask all of you to do whatever you can to help our students whenever and wherever you can. I know that many of you are burnt out and Zoom exhausted as well, as facing many other challenges in this very challenging semester. But I would ask that you try to support our students and help them, encourage them to enroll in the winter and the spring semesters. There is a concern across the board that all of us share about how our students are doing and trying to help them get through. We created what we're calling a little bit of a cheat sheet. It's a set of resources. You should have received this through email. Did you yesterday? I think we circulated it. This is designed to share with you the resources that are available to students so that you can refer them to psychological counseling, financial aid counseling, the campus health center, the food pantry, computer labs, where they can receive a loaner laptop or a hotspot, a virtual study hall, academic support services, etc., and even virtual childcare that we're providing at this time for our students. So please do use those set of resources, reach out, and where students have concerns, we hope that that cheat sheet will give you some information. Feel free to share that cheat sheet with our students as well as your colleagues. Last, I just want to mention a couple things about fundraising. Last month, I talked about kind of grassroots fundraising that's happening right now. And I wanted to give you a report out on Giving Tuesday, which happened 1 week ago. We raised more than $130,000 from 480 individuals. This is the highest ever we have raised, and it continues a very strong trajectory since I came on board in 2016, where we raised $20,000 on Giving Tuesday. We have had tremendous growth since then and saw the highest ever at $130,000 this year. I really want to thank all of you who participated in Giving Tuesday. Many of you reached out to help support our students, and I thank you very much for that. I want to turn it over briefly to Anne and then to Alan, and then open it up for questions or comments. Anne?
Thank you. So nice to see everyone as ever. Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to be really brief and just focus on one area today, really, which is the work we're doing in the Center for Teaching and Learning. In particular, faculty have asked and chairs have asked us to address that, and faculty council has asked us to address that and talk about some of the opportunities that are really there. The center in January, so there's some really exciting new things happening in January. So let me start with those. There will be Pedagogy and Practice Week starting the week of January 11th. During that week, there are working sessions and mini sessions throughout the week on course development and co-working sessions making videos for teaching, social media, using social media in your teaching, developing assignments. There are lunchtime chats about grading, visualization tools, you name it. It sounds like a really exciting week, and an email about that will be going out, I believe, today or tomorrow. The Cuny-OET program, the online learning program about teaching online, and what that's about through the School of Professional Studies. That is recruiting through December 16th. You received an email about that. So if you're interested in that overview, that's there. Our BC Go course that our own Center for Teaching and Learning developed, our online resource, that's been updated and is continually updated. It's terrific. For teaching online, and that resource is there for you as well at any time. It's asynchronous at any time. There's a lot of work going on about anti-racist pedagogy. Is one thing that's coming up, is teaching settler colonialism. This is about integrating Native and Indigenous studies into the curriculum on December 17th from 12 to 2. That particular workshop is very exciting. It's co-hosted with the Wolf Institute and Professor Dan Staub, one of our new faculty in sociology, who's also worked on that. So we're really excited about that, and about many, many opportunities are there. So please visit the Center for Teaching and Learning. I'll be updating you on lots of other work in academic affairs in my closing semester email to you when I have time to write that in December. So in the interim, I wish everybody well.
Thank you. Alan?
Okay, unmuted, great. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and happy holidays. Yeah, I'll be brief also. First, my next monthly town hall is going to be on December 22nd. You hopefully will get the email from communication shortly to register. We've had well over 100, 150 people in every one of the sessions, in spite of everybody being so busy. So hopefully you come today. There's always a budget component associated with that. And then I try to highlight an area. I'm going to talk more about facilities this go around in terms of our engineering team and our environmental health and safety team and our planners. So hopefully people can attend that. In terms of budget, there's not much news since the last time we spoke. We're still operating under a 7-month budget where there's a 20% hold. There's been no new changes on that in terms of any allocations. Hopefully we hear soon. And a lot depends on stimulus money from the federal government, and I think that'll determine the next steps by the state, which will determine the next steps by the university. In terms of the CARES allocation, as I mentioned, in other forums recently, we now do have access to the $8.8 million that the institutional part of the CARES Act Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. The money, though, is extremely restricted. This is not a budget relief program. That's what money to the states will be for, and it's not a payroll protection program. So we're pretty much limited to costs that we incur due to the change of delivery of student learning and remote work. So that's a very limited guidance. We are working very closely in terms of reporting everything that we've currently spent. We spent a little under $1.5 million through September 30th, and we're in the process of compiling what we're spending this quarter. We're required to submit quarterly reports to the university, and then we're going to have to also do reporting to the federal government. We're looking at things such as increasing our supply of computers, laptop computers and MacBooks. If you have a need, or of faculty, staff, or students that have a need, please work with your chair so we can start continuing to increase our list of what we need to allocate out. Supply is very, very limited. So even though we'd love to buy hundreds of these, we can't get them in. So we really need to put our orders in as soon as possible and hope that we get them in the next 2 or 3 months. We have at least 100 outstanding and vendors can't deliver. We do have MiFi available. We are purchasing some headsets. We're trying to do all that we can to utilize this money in ways to support the faculty, staff, and students, and we're going to continue to do so. And the plan is, because we just submitted our first quarter report, on Friday. For Michael Lanzer in the budget office, they're going to be compiling a summary. And I'm hopeful that at my September 22nd town hall, we could talk about in detail how we've spent the money thus far. Anyone who has any ideas, again, limited scope, please feel free to forward it to me. We definitely want to figure out the best way to spend this money. We're now looking to do it in small chunks because everything has to go through procurement. But so anyone who has big ideas, please don't be afraid to present them. We run them through the university. If the answer is no, the answer is no. But we definitely want to spend this money, and at this point we have until May 14th to do so. We expect the university to put in for an extension, but that's it's too early to do that. And there's always a chance we'll get more money in future stimulus packages. So now that we know the parameters and the university has given us the go ahead, we're moving forward. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to really do things to make sure that people are safe and that remote learning and remote work continues to do well and grow. That's my presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
President Anderson, you ready to accept questions?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Folks, please raise your hands using the raise hand facility. I will call on you as in the order. Professor Davis, you're first.
Thanks. I had a question for Alan. Alan, thanks for your work on the budget and your explanation. I had a question about whether you think it's viable for faculty and staff to save receipts on things. You may have answered this in a previous meeting, but everything is in flux. So, I mean, is it worthwhile trying to save receipts on things that we think may be reimbursable, even if, they're not in the list of things that are, say, pre-screened, pre-endorsed from the university, if people have had to pay out of pocket for things that might turn out to be reimbursable through CARES Act money later. I'm not asking you to guarantee anything, but what's your sense of that?
It's the university was supposed to do written policy on that and then decided they're not doing at this time, they're not doing written policy on that. We know it's not CARES eligible because we were told specifically that that's not CARES eligible. In very isolated cases, we have worked with chairs in terms of reimbursing things that just seemed reasonable. We do encourage people though to use BCF money when possible for things like that, because tax levy money is not even the money per se, it's the volume of work. We do not have enough staff to process. If everybody put in reimbursement for $10, $20, we have like very limited accounts payable staff. We wouldn't be able to get it through, and everything has to be pre-approved. So if anyone has specific things they need to work with their chair, we've had made some exceptions. Like I tell my staff, try not to print, try not to do other things. We've let people take paper from the office when they had it. Toner on limited circumstances, but everything needs to be pre-approved. But but we can never handle the volume if everybody puts things in.
Thank you, Alan. Professor
Okay.
Bray, unmute yourself, please. There you go.
All right. Hi. This question is for Michelle, and I want to follow up on a faculty council item from last month. That faculty council passed a resolution demanding that, or resolving that, we ask the administration to permit departments in interdisciplinary programs to establish class enrollment caps, which something has been reiterated on this again, and that one of the professional staff should be able to collectively nominate one of their members to the support staff screening committee. And last but certainly not least, raising the question of an external consultant to work with the campus around becoming a more anti-racist institution, which the administration has repeatedly affirmed is important to them. And the Anti-Racist Coalition had some recommendations of a couple of organizations that have done this kind of work very effectively in the past. So I was wondering, since this was passed a month ago, whether there's any update on where the administration's response to this motion is.
Sure. So thanks, Naomi. The question of class size, I take, the resolution that this faculty just passed on this issue and the resolution from last year or last month, I take as an attempt to assert by the University Faculty Senate to assert jurisdiction and authority over the question of class size. I understand that the university and the Faculty Senate probably disagree about this, and under the bylaws of the Board of Trustees, I'm obligated as president to send those, certainly today's motion to the university. I understand there is dialogue about this, and there is disagreement about this question. So that's the first class size issue. In terms of the element of last month's resolution that was about an outside consultant, I indicated at the faculty council meeting that I was not opposed. I was interested in learning more and receiving a proposal. Haven't received any information from anyone on what the scope of that work might be. There has been an assertion that ARC decide who the outside consultant is and the scope of that work. Please send us that information so that we understand what the request is for and how we might be able to fulfill that request. As I mentioned last time, the implementation team also, in addition to groups on campus, also recommended a pot of money be set aside and fundraised for that was designed to be used for both faculty support and the possibility of an outside consultant. So I understand this, I see this as a priority, am very interested in learning more, have not received a set of groups, as you say. If there is such a set, please do send it along to me and some scope of work that so that we can understand what the request is for.
Thank you. Professor Este, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. With a question for anyone who will answer. I know that Alan, in prior town hall meetings, you had indicated the hollowing out of the management ranks with respect to, various facilities, facility functions, and just curious how that is going and the relationship of the lack of those positions being filled to the safety protocols that will be required when we get closer to returning to campus, may it be. I'm sure we're all looking forward to that. But the question is, how can we ensure safety in returning to campus when so many of those positions and facilities are not filled?
Sure. Okay, as to get everybody up to speed, we had approval for a search for an executive director in that area to replace Michael Rogovin, who replaced Fran Fitzgerald. We were ready to bring finalists to campus, in March. We obviously had to postpone that due to the pandemic. When I was ready to resume the search, realizing we weren't coming back to campus as fast, but we had needs, we have to run now every single position, full-time or part-time, through CUNY's vacancy review board. When we submitted to vacancy review board for approval, we were told we could fill it, but only at an interim capacity. We asked the 6 finalists to come to do Zoom interviews with the hope of having 1 or 2 come on campus for an in-person interview to see the facility. Half of the candidates, declined to continue with the process due to the interim status. Michelle appealed to the university to please change that, and they said, sorry, all positions are interim positions. We subsequently did interview all of the individuals. Ryan Morelli represented the faculty. I recently failed the search because I felt none of the candidates really could come close to satisfying our needs, but we are in the process of identifying someone internal to handle this role. Renita's been working nonstop to deal with all the union issues in terms of classified staff to non-classified staff. I'm hoping, as all of you are, to make an announcement very shortly of how we're going to fill this position. And hopefully in my town hall on the 22nd, I'll be able to announce the name of someone who is going to do this role, who I think is going to be amazing. and really help us move forward. It was someone who was not interested previously that's interested now, and it makes us, we're still short a person because we're not replacing that time, but to me, it gives me the leadership I need so I could spread my time out further. Someone with great campus support and technical expertise. So it's not the best situation, but I think for us it's going to be it's a very positive improvement. I'm looking across all my portfolio. I have people willing to step up to really make it easier for me, because I have 43 direct reports now. That's not a manageable number, and we're finding ways to work as a team very collaboratively. And the last month I've been very optimistic that we're going to be even better moving forward. And and to Michelle's credits, Michelle stands by her word. She is not making everything a priority, because when we talk about priorities all the time, we're doing the things that are important, the things that are needed. We do not have a long laundry list of projects that we don't have to do now. And it's really helping us focus on what's really important. And the staff and the team are much calmer, knowing that we're going to work hard. But I don't work 18-hour days anymore. It wasn't sustainable, for after the first few months, and my team is not doing that either. So I think all things considered, I think we're in best case scenario.
Thank you.
And okay.
We have a large number of people still waiting to ask the president questions.
Okay.
Professor Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask a question of Michelle. In the last couple of meetings, you've given us a report on fundraising, and there's been some good news there, which is always welcome. I wanted to ask you if you could also give us a report on anything the university might be doing in Albany to secure adequate public funding of the university.
Do you mean what I'm doing or what the university is doing, or both?
Or both would be great.
Yeah. Most of those, first I want to say, Tim, it's super important to me. It's extremely important to, I know it's important to all of CUNY and to the leadership of CUNY. You said what they were doing in Albany. No, I don't know of folks who are traveling at this time to Albany. I'm going to take the question as sort of, what are we doing with state and city elected officials so that we can secure stronger funding. I'm working on a regular basis with state and city officials talking about how to enhance our position. I'm also fundraising in some sense with CUNY Central. Alan and I are working to have funds reallocated to the college wherever and whenever we can. So it's both outside fundraising with donors. It is working with CUNY Central to advantage Brooklyn College within the CUNY system. It's working with city legislators to get city allocations, often for capital funding, and specific projects that are of interest to city officials. And then at the state level, it's working on a regular basis, particularly when there is a cycle for budget allocation, to underscore the case for CUNY, the case for the educational offerings that we have, the case for the campus in terms of the recovery from the pandemic, and the case for liberal arts and sciences institutions and the strength of the state generally. One thing I will say, because I think there has been consternation around, obviously consternation by all of us around the challenging budget situation. The advocacy that I do, I have to do in a way that is most effective for the interests of Brooklyn College long-term. And often that means that it is behind the scenes, or more behind the scenes than other entities who are also advocating, like the faculty, among others, also advocating for the needs and interests of the college. I do it behind the scenes because that is the most effective way, in my estimation, to enhance the long-term interests of the college and the fiscal position of the college. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Professor Trumper, you're next. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. two things. I was going to share in chat while you were calling on me that I received, as I do weekly, an email from my state senator, Alessandra Biaggi, who spoke specifically about the supermajority in the Senates and also in the Assembly, looking seriously into the question of fundraiser opportunities like a millionaire's tax that could not be overridden by the governor. So I am hopeful. We will see. But my question was to Alan. Alan, with the CARES money, would it be possible to use some of it to supplement adjunct pay for those adjuncts who want to take part, particularly in our case, in the work we are doing on the composition sequence, namely their participation in the freshman composition committee. Our adjuncts are eager to participate in the work of the department. They also want to be paid for it.
Okay, we'd have to be able to justify how this is related to COVID and the pandemic. And if that was the case, we could certainly review it and present to the university. Based on how you explained it, it did not sound like this is a pandemic related request. It sounds more like an important academic curriculum request, but not something that, that be used to support, us being successful during the pandemic. So
well, in the moment, it's related to teaching on Zoom.
Again, I think we need to scope it out. If it's something related to online learning,
right.
If you write a brief summary, I could review with Anne, and we could run it up. I run everything up the university. They don't guarantee that the federal government's going to allow it, but they'll give me another set of years because they've been through this, and they could even question the federal government on some things to see if it's allowable. So I think if you have an idea, run it through process, and let's see what we can make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Professor Munoz, please unmute yourself. No, you just muted yourself. There you go.
Hi. Thanks. Michelle, I don't think you answered the question that Naomi posed fully, including the second item on staff and allowing staff to select their own to be part of that committee.
Could you say that again? The second piece, which was what? I'm sorry, I missed it. It was staff to do what?
To be on the what's the name of the committee?
Which committee? I can't recall what it was.
Staff
promotion.
The support service, the staff support service.
Oh, right. My recollection of that is that it was not controversial, and that is something that I can do and will look into. Yeah, the support staff screening committee. That was having, the thing that I need to check is whether or not the assembly, whether or not the members of that committee is defined within whether or not the membership is defined in our bylaws. If it is not, and if there's flexibility, I have no problem adding a staff member. Okay. I am sorry, I forgot about that one.
And on the ARC and union demand on the anti-racism piece, the faculty council resolution does not ask ARC to make progress on this. It asks you and the administration to make progress on this. ARC is certainly having conversations with these different groups. And my understanding is that the Center for Teaching also has been working on this and also has names of groups that they have been looking into. But I will report, since I wrote it in the chat, last time, we have not been able to have a meeting with the African American Policy Forum. They had to postpone the meeting that we had scheduled for late November because of various projects that they are consumed by. But the ballpark is 30 to 50,000. I didn't hear you ask for a proposal last time. I certainly, again, the resolution does not call for ARC to create a proposal. It creates for the administration to make progress on this.
Yeah,
So
I
I
hear
think
you. It's that ARC demands that they decide who it is and what the scope is. If they're simply asking, if the resolution was for the administration to take that up, I appreciate the, what I see as a slight change in that request, and I will make progress on it, given your sense that the scope of the project is within the hands of the administration, the outside consultant is within the hands of the administration. The only team that I had heard about was from you, the African American Policy Forum. What they will do, what you're requesting them to do, I'd like to hear more about. But if it's simply find an outside consultant to do some outside consulting, I can make progress on that. And if that's what you take, if that's what the will of the body is, not to await a proposal, but to take initiative and develop an outside consulting relationship, I can move forward with that. So I appreciate the clarification.
Thank you very much, President Anderson. We now move, there are no more questions. So we'll move now to Professor Levy, Committee on Committee.
Question?
I wish you would have raised. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. I think it's maybe for Alan, but whoever in the administration wants to answer. Is there a policy on conference expenses? I was told by my department earlier that all that was on hold, but maybe some of that money has been released. I would posit that a college and university without the ability of faculty to pay registration fees is a hobbled academic institution.
Alan, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Okay, unmuted. Okay, sorry about that. It's as I've said, we're working on the zero-based budget. We have been approving travel requests, with working with the deans and the chairs. So you should speak with your chair and with Dean Bedford, and we will approve all virtual travel requests. We are not allowed to approve any physical travel requests. That's against university policy at the current time, but we have approved virtual conferences.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay. Remind anyone who wants to speak, please raise your hand so that I know that you want to speak. Okay, and we move now to Professor Levy, Committee on Committees.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank Professor Dove Fisher, who's finished his tenure on the Committee on Committees, for his tremendous work for the committee these past few years. We have good news. We found a chair for review of student records, and you have that in your packet. Hopefully you've seen it. Philip Stanizenko from biology was willing to step up from being a regular member to chair. We now have a vacancy for that, so as a regular member. So we have one member, ordinary member of student records. And other than that, we're completely filled. So I think we can open the floor for any nominations.
Are there any additional nominations to Committee on Committees?
So someone for student records.
Okay, hearing none, I'm going to launch a poll to approve. What is it, Sharona? One more time, tell me, what are we approving?
Yeah, so we found a chair for review of student records. Philip Stanizenko from biology.
Okay, so please vote on the poll that you see in front of you. Anyone else want to vote? Still coming in. Okay, so as you can see, 87 people voted yes, 3 people abstained. The slate is approved. Thank everyone for willing to serve, and please try to think of someone to fill the last seat that
Yeah.
week.
Please do, your colleagues, any chairs who have someone who needs some service. And just to remind people, I know you did just said it, members of Committee on Committees, I've sent you an email about meeting right after Faculty Council to choose a chair. So it should be a quick meeting. Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Thank you. We now move to a report from the University Faculty Senate, Professor Cohen.
Good afternoon, everyone. The 421st plenary session of the UFS took place last Tuesday, December 1st. The guest was Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost Jose Luis Cruz. UP Cruz shared that the decision to remain online in spring 2021 was largely based on health concerns related to COVID and continuity, and that 90% of the sections for the spring are scheduled online, which will serve 98% of our students. He said this is possible because NYSED is extending the online learning waiver, and there's also hope that the U.S. Department of Education will do likewise. The learning management system contract for Blackboard, our favorite, is coming up for renewal. CUNY has created a task force to explore LMS options in order to guide the creation of an request for proposal for a new LMS. He mentioned the enrollments for fall 2020, which we pretty much know, 5.6 overall, slightly up at the senior colleges, but at the community colleges, it's down 14.5%. He attributes 10% of that to removing college now high school students. And otherwise, he would say that that's according close with national average. Therefore, they need to focus on retention and increasing yield of converted applicants. He also mentioned that we've had greater success graduating students, which of course means there's more room for incoming students. During the question and answer, there was some clarification on why CUNY hadn't considered extending the credit, no credit policy from last spring. And then another senator pointed out that the student senate of the university had already passed a resolution requesting an extension of the policy. He stated that the reason they didn't consider it so far was a question of course transferability, since systems across the country have not been extending that policy. He's concerned about the compounding of credit, no credit grades over several semesters as far as making assessments of programs. And finally, he said that CUNY wanted to respect the right of individual colleges to make these academic policies. There were further questions about the CUNY policy on the use of student cameras for proctoring of final exams. University Provost Cruz said that CUNY considered the students' legal rights foremost for the current policy with regard to privacy and cameras, but they are continuing to work on protocols for proctoring of online exams and are coordinating with SUNY to research proctoring solutions. There were 2 motions before the University Faculty Senate. The first was a proposed amendment to the charter to include adjunct instructors as USF members and guidelines for the number of adjunct instructors to be elected from each college, and that proposal passed. The second was a proposed resolution on the creation of a standing committee on community colleges. There were questions about the need for a separate committee just for community colleges and possible duplication of responsibility with the existing UFS standing committees. There was also concern that this would divide the UFS at a time when it needs to be more unified. The counter argument was that many community college issues are unique given the students they serve, their heavier teaching loads, and their funding coming largely from the city. A motion to call the question failed when there was neither unanimous consent nor were there 2/3 of the total body present needed to affirm the vote. Motion to postpone the resolution until the next USS plenary failed. At that point, the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you, Professor Cohen. Is there any brief questions, Professor Cohen? I'm sure the minutes will reflect his remarks. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we now move to degree list 2021/5 and 6. As you may know, and as you just heard, up until now, we did not have a chair for the Committee of Review of Student Records, nor did we have a mechanism for them to actually review the student records. So the steering committee has been taking that role, and the steering committee has reviewed the degree lists, which have been posted. You should all have had a chance to see them. Before we go to a vote, I just want to announce that the registrar's office, Lillian and her staff have been extremely helpful, realizing that the faculty are the ones that have to review the records. Starting in the spring, all members of the committee are going to be given complete access to DegreeWorks, where they'll be able to look at all the student records. They'll be given training to be able to access these in the same way that the registrar does, which is more than we can. And they will go back to doing what they're supposed to do so that the steering committee does not have to do this for you. In the meanwhile, regarding degree lists 2021/5 and 6, the registrar certifies that all students on this list have met all the requirements for graduation and were eligible for their respective degrees as of the dates indicated. Resolved that the Faculty Council of Brooklyn College, University of New York, grant to the students named below the degrees indicated. Is there anyone who wishes to have a name removed for cause? Hearing none, I will launch the poll. Please vote on granting the students their degree. Everyone's voted? Okay. Thank you. And as you can see, 90 individuals voted yes. 1 person abstained. The motion passes. Thank you. Okay. We now move to report of standing committees. We are going to begin with Professor Shortell, curriculum document 409. Professor Shortell, please instruct me on what you want me to share.
Yes, thank you. If you could project the regular curriculum document 409 first and then the addendum.
Thank you very much. One moment, I will do so.
Sure. You may have noticed in your review of 409 the error there. I put an American Studies course in there twice. That was a copy-paste error on my part. So I took the course that should have been in that was not and added it to the addendum. It's actually a cross-listed course with the sustainability program. So the sustainability version of it is in the document. So we have some changes to degree programs. Well, actually, it's a little bit harder to go through step by step in this format. So I guess I'll just open it up more generally to questions since you've had an opportunity to review the document. Doesn't sound like there's any questions. If you could just show us briefly the addendum just so people can see what the course is.
Can you see it?
Yeah, thank you. The committee approved it and it's cross-listed with sustainability, but I copied the wrong course into the document.
Yes, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Is there any discussions? Comments, corrections? Okay, in which case I will launch the poll for undergrad curriculum 4. Professor Temper has a question. Please please go unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, it's not in this document, Tim, but it's critical to the seed department that departments that collaborate in the teaching program reduce their courses. We just voted today in the department to change our degree requirements for English teacher. If we submit it today or tomorrow, would it go into effect in fall 2021?
Well, that will be a question that we'll have to ask of the provost. This document was the stated deadline. If the provost is willing to grant an exception. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to jump in and say I think we're okay.
Okay.
I think we're okay to wait until spring to submit those curriculum documents and be okay with stating.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please note, everyone, if you're writing things in the chat, I don't see it, and it really raise your hand. Otherwise, it's just meaningless. So please, I'm missing people who are writing things in there, and I can't respond. Okay, so I'm going to launch. If there are no more comments on curriculum document 409, please vote. Anyone else voting? I'm going to end the poll. Share the results. As you can see, 86 people voted yes. There were no noes and no abstentions. So the document with the addendum passes. Thank you, Tim. We'll get back to you shortly. The next item is Professor Rodman, Committee on Graduate Curriculum document 260. And I understand you may have some corrections, so allow me to bring that up. Curriculum document 260. Okay, please direct me on what you want me to show as you wish me to show it. I assume everyone can see it.
Well, the only change we have is the number 7701G needs to be changed throughout the document to 7765G. What happened was 7701G turned out to be a course that had already been assigned, a course number that had already been assigned. So Psych had to change the numbers of 7701G to 7765. This will be a universal change. You don't have to scroll through it. And the follow-up course then will become, rather than 7702G, it'll become 7766G. It's really a clerical change, and I will make it before I send this on to the registrar and before I send it on to faculty council's archives. So besides from that, the document is solid and can be voted on as it is.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If I may just point out that there are 2 graduate business courses here that refer to 2 courses in the CIS department for cross-listing. Those courses were just approved today at today's department meeting, and they will be sent to you, and they are the identical courses that are listed in the business department, those 2 courses. So even though it refers to a non-existing course, as of today, we approved it and we will send it on to you.
Okay.
That's these 2 courses here, data analysis 2 and data analysis 3.
Good.
Any other comments on the document?
I have a quick comment.
Go ahead, please.
Aaron Cosbelt from Psychology. Just for the record, it would have been nice if Psychology had been consulted about the new quantitative courses in business, which have some overlap with psych graduate courses. George has outlined a process for dealing with this after the meeting, which I hope will work out, but I just wanted to note that point. Thank you.
True.
Okay, I assume that you are not objecting to this point to the courses.
I think we can go through and proceed as George described, and that would be fine. But moving forward, yeah.
Yeah. Again, I just want to reiterate, both graduate and undergraduate, we should have a high index of suspicion if there's a course that possibly could be concerning to another department. It's better to ask before than to come to faculty council and then everybody starts talking and voting against it because everyone's worried about their own courses being gored, their own cows being gored. So it's better to have a very, very high index of suspicion and just widely, I'm addressing this to everybody, okay? If you have proposing a new course, you should think widely. Most departments will say, if it's not concerning, then we'll say, go right ahead. So thank you for bringing that up. I see that Professor Lynch has
Yes.
a hand up. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry. I thought that the person who's the head of our curriculum committee is Hervé Quinault, Professor Quinault, which many of you know. I quickly looked at some of the email correspondence because I try to keep track of it. I thought there was some correspondence between Elizabeth Bronner in which George Rodman was also involved on that. If there was some mistake on our part, we do apologize and we'll follow up with you to make sure that there's no miscommunication going forward. But I just want to make sure that there was some email correspondence I can see here.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Tremper?
I must have left my hand up. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Very good. Are there any more comments on curriculum document 260 with the correction? Hearing none.
I do. Dr. Molina.
Sorry. It's Emily Molina from Sociology. Hi.
Someone?
Yeah, it's Emily Molina from Sociology.
Go ahead, please.
Hi. I have a question about the change in the master's program in Earth and Environmental Sciences, it looks like, to Urban Environmental Sciences. I'm wondering what the rationale was for that, and I'm also wondering if they consulted the Urban Sustainability Program on campus or any of the social sciences.
I assume you're talking about the degree that I have currently on the screen?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, does anyone from Earth and Environmental Science or from Sustainability want to? Mr. Shariat, please raise your hand, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. We did not. No, I mean, this passed through our department and there are members, we're part of the Urban Sustainability Program. And this is an environmental science program that's placed in the city. And so that's why the name urban goes in front of it. So no, we did not.
Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none, we will launch the poll. Please vote on this document with its correction. Somebody does not have themselves muted. Please mute everyone. Any other votes? Still coming in. Okay, I'm going to end the polling now. As one can see, 83 people voted yes, 2 people voted no, 5 people abstained. The document passes. Thank you. Okay, we now move to new business in which we have both Professor Shortell and Professor Sosa are presenting a resolution on extending the CRNC policy. Now I'm going to share that document with you. Professor Wasser, I will put you under new business unless you need to, right now you're out of order because I didn't say anything yet. Okay, I'll put you under new business. Okay, I wish to share with you the original document. Hold on a minute. Okay, this is the resolution that you were all sent, okay, regarding the resolution on extending credit, no credit policy. Since that time, the Board of Trustees issued their own policy, which I show you here. And I know it's very hard to read because I only have it in an email, and I don't think I can make that bigger. But the key point is that the Board of Trustees gave us 3 choices, which I'm going to highlight here, and I'll read them to you, and then I'll turn over the floor to Professor Shortell. Choice 1 is allow the use of CRNC grades for all fall 2020 courses, as in the spring 2020 term, which is roughly what this motion says, although this motion seems to extend it indefinitely, which I don't think that the Board of Trustees allows us to do that at this point. Choice number 2, allow the use of the CRNC grades for all fall 2020 courses, except those that the college designates to be excluded. And 3, do not allow the use of CRNC grades in fall 2020, but expand access to the college's existing flexible grading policy using the university's PNC grading framework. Now, I also, before I turn it over, I want to make reference to the fact that there is rumors going around that Hunter College has an approved policy. You should be aware that Hunter's college policy was declared to be illegal, and that does not follow the PNC grading framework that CUNY. So they too have to rework their policy one way or the other. So let me turn this over to Tim and Irene, and then I'll ask the floor, because I am aware that several departments have voted today or discussed it that wish to make amendments to this. So Tim, please go ahead. And Irene, whoever is first, you can both unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. So, the curriculum committee has been discussing this issue for a while now, and of course we were anticipating possible action by the university. I'll just note that the university, when it decided to extend this policy, then communicated that we learned about that for the first time yesterday, and the instructions were that the college administrations had to attest to which option by the end of the week. So the framework, the timeline that the university has provided here is problematic, in terms of respecting faculty governance. That's simply not enough time to do this. We were in a slightly better position because we had already been talking about it a little bit, but to think that we could develop a policy, that's as important as this, without ample time to engage our usual processes, I think is a problematic position for the university to take. Once we learned the specifics of the university guidance, the 3 choices, we went back and discussed it, but feeling like there wasn't enough time to develop a more complicated proposal, we felt it was best to bring to faculty council the original resolution that we had sent out, which turns out to be a version of option number 1. Because we heard the request from the student groups to set a policy not just for this semester, but for every semester in which we're teaching online only, we felt it was important to add a second resolve that would extend this. Whether the university recognizes our authority to do that or not is a different question, but we felt it was important to address the issue by saying that we would in fact do that as long as we're stuck in this mode. The only argument that I will make in favor of this resolution as of implementing option number 1 is that the conditions that led the university to adopt the credit, no credit policy in the first place are still operative and indeed have become worse. And this is the message that the committee has been hearing consistently, overwhelmingly from our students. And so we felt that the wisest course of action was to extend the policy without restricting particular courses.
Okay, Irene, as the chair of the other committee that was looking, are you want to comment? I don't even know where she is. I don't know if she's present. Okay.
No, we are in total, my course understanding is total agreement with what Tim just said. And we did this, you know, few hours before we got the notification from Cuny. So.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now going to taxi. A lot of people want to speak. I will, in the order, call Professor Lipke. Please unmute yourself.
Unmute. Hi. Okay. Couple of questions. First one is informational. What is the pass no credit framework? Is that different from credit no credit?
Who wants to answer that? Tim, me? Tim, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say I don't know any more about it than what's included in this particular email because, again, they shared that with us at the last minute. I haven't had a chance to look up any additional details.
So one thing I'll say, if I could, Yadidja.
Good, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the college presidents were told of this university policy yesterday as well. So this is a new thing that we're all trying to figure out what the different provisions mean. The third provision on expanding our own pass-fail grading, when we looked at what our pass-fail grading is to understand what we might expand under that, it is not available to first-year students, first-year full-time students. Students must have declared a major. They must have a GPA of 2.0 or higher. It can only be used for 10 courses. That's the maximum. It's very restricted as to the type of course. Can't be used for courses in the major, pathways courses, courses outside the major, etc. And students have to opt for pass-fail at the beginning of the semester. So as I understand this third option, we would be expanding those categories in whatever way the college deemed appropriate. I will say that there would be no central support provided for that third option because it would be something that would only be done locally. If we did option 1 or 2, we would have the standard support to implement those possibilities through CUNY first. Not so, as I understand it, with changing our own pass-fail because that would be local. So that would put more pressure on our own staff just to sort of provide full disclosure on option 3.
I'd ask a question on option 3. Does the pass include D grades or only C and above? You know?
As it stands right now, and as the policy was in the past, that a student with a D- could elect to take a CR rather than an NC.
Right. How about a pass? How about a P? Is that the same?
There is no grade P that your department can give, as far as I know. There is no such grade available to you. Only certain courses in English, for example, have that option. Okay. That would be a new grade, and it doesn't exist.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ellen, I believe you were next.
Yes, we would need an exemption for composition, which already has an NC grade, but it means something different from the NC grade that we're talking about. We would not want students who require a grade of C- or above to move into 10-12, for example, to get a credit for a grade lower than NC, which would be, we don't even have it. So it's a real problem for us.
Okay, Professor Tremper, I believe that Professor Cox is ready to put forth an amendment to this. And so by your leave, I will let him present his amendment, which was approved by several different departments, probably yours as well. Professor Cox?
Yes, because of exactly the concern that Professor Tremper talked about, we don't want students who are in prerequisite courses that require that they get a grade C or above to move on to be able to get a D and get a credit for that course. So I would like to amend, I don't want to say go to policy 2, but amend policy 1 to say that for courses which are prerequisites that require a grade of C or above, that we allow granting no credit for a grade of D.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? I see Professor thank you, Professor Lipke. We are now open to discussion on the amendment.
This is Michelle. Could I speak briefly?
Yes,
on,
you may.
on this? I actually don't think that amendment is authorized. Not to weigh in, but it would not be either option 1, which would be a wholesale acceptance of credit, no credit, as we did in the spring, or option 2, the acceptance of credit, no credit, except for certain classes, which would then be graded as regular. Nor is it option 3, a change in our own pass-fail policy. So I appreciate that the faculty may choose to pass anything it wishes, but in terms of my obligations as president, I'm now obligated to tell the university which of the 3 available options this college will follow by Friday.
Okay, I respectfully disagree with the president. I believe this is option 2, with the except those that the college designates to be excluded are those classes for which class in question is a prerequisite.
I agree. To that extent, that's absolutely appropriate. I understood Professor Cox to say that instead of giving a no, that there would be a change in the no credit option for certain classes in a specific way. I think it's either an on-off. It's either the way you have done it or credit, no credit, the way the university is doing it. I don't think an amalgam of the 2 is authorized under subsection 2.
I believe Professor Cox meant to say, correct me if I'm wrong, that he wishes to allow the use of CRNC grades for all fall 2020 courses, except for those courses which require the course as a prerequisite. And that is exactly what option 2 says.
If that's what Professor Cox meant, then that is option 2. I appreciate that.
Then I would prefer option 2 to option 1.
Right.
Great.
It is what Professor Cox said, because I actually secret prompted him to say that about an hour ago. Okay. Yes. Is there any more discussion on option 2 on the amendment?
Yeah, yes. I would like to.
I have to call on people.
Yeah, Tim.
Professor Cox, lower your hand, please. Professor Levy, you were next.
Yes, I had a question about whether this resolution would apply to summer classes past, right? Because in between, right, we had credit, no credit. If it passes in whatever form, would it cover retroactively summer, and would it apply to winter classes as well, where students, if we're going to pass something which is as long as we're remote, So just having a.
Let me answer my reading of this. Tim, please correct me. The motion that they made, which is now possibly being amended by Professor Cox's motion, is that this should remain in effect forever, essentially forever, until as long as we're all online. We can pass that. There's been no motion to change that. Whether the university just throws that out and says you can't do that remains to be seen. I suspect they will say that we're doing this semester by semester, but nobody has made a motion to amend it to that part. And I would just say, let's leave it be and see what the university has to say. Okay.
One clarification, it's not retroactive to summer. There's no, at least under the university policy, there is no retroactivity at all towards summer.
That's correct. There's absolutely no retroactivity to summer. You can't retroactively change grades. Okay, the next one on the list. Well, let me ask and Professor Chotel, since they are the bringers of this motion, to talk about the amendment.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to speak against the amendment. I understand its intent, and I have some sympathy for it. But the most compelling point, I think, is to recognize that these are exceptional circumstances, and that there are undoubtedly lots of reasons to think that this, is not an ideal policy, but the conditions that led us to create the credit, no credit policy are still with us. And I think that we need to extend to our students this policy for as long as we're stuck in this mode. As long as those conditions remain, the policy should remain. Because I think if we had more time to think about it, we might think, well, I need this course to take, an exception for this course. We talked about it in my department with our capstone course, but the more exceptions that we put in, if we exempt every prerequisite course, the policy is much less humane and much less helpful to our students. I think we just need to recognize that this is an extraordinary time, and to allow the policy to help our students in the way that it has.
Professor Sosa?
Yeah, I agree with him, but the other thing is, how do we organize this in a week? This is an incredible undertaking, and how, we don't have another faculty meeting to pass certain resolutions. So it's going to be a free for all. And I just don't see how we can make it work before we have to do the grades. So I think option 2 is, it's a huge undertaking, given the fact that the university didn't give us any time. It didn't give us 24 hours to the faculty meeting. That's, it's weird. It's just.
It is true that the university, as usual, without making editorial comments, has not given us the right amount of time. They actually, as the president stated, this came out at, I think, 10 a.m. yesterday. I had spoken indirectly to the chancellor late Friday afternoon through my university governance leaders people, and he said that this was coming up at 10 a.m. But you're right. But we have to do something, and if we don't do it, CUNY will do it for us. So I think.
So can I say something 1 second? But the other thing is, I will propose to do this for the fall, given the fact of what Professor Chotel said, and then let's ask the university to have this discussion early on in the semester, because also the students didn't know this. So we're going to inform them tomorrow, and they're having a really hard time dealing with this semester, as we all have. So let's ask the university to, have the 3 options for the spring, that we know we're going to be online, but then the students know from the beginning that they have this option. It's just, we are almost in the same emergency case that we were in the spring, and the students are feeling that way. And I think it's a very responsible of the university to give us 36 hours, 24 hours ago, this resolution, when that student have been demanding for this for the whole semester.
You did, you?
Irene, it is all agreed. It is very irresponsible of CUNY Central to behave the way they're behaving. That is true. Let me just take my privilege as speaker to speak for this motion. We think we're doing students favors. In fact, we've seen this semester, experience in our classes this semester, that because students entered the classes extremely unprepared, that is the get out of jail policy, free policy from last semester, allowed students to take classes for which they would have gotten D minuses, C minuses, and would not have been able to take the class. The students are falling like flies. They are failing. 50% of my students in my class, which are engineering students, physics students, good students, are dropping out and failing. Okay, and this is what we're doing is for the courses in other departments where one course does not build on another course, I understand. But in a department where one has very strict prerequisites for reason, and you let students in, you are guaranteeing that they're going to fail. You are hurting the student. So rather than helping the student and being compassionate, in many cases we're being, what's the opposite of compassionate? Cruel to the students. Okay, I've said my piece. Now, Peter Lipke and then Professor Klein, I'm going down my list. I don't know what the order is. It seems to screw it up. Professor Lipke, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to second what you just said and add a more difficult wrinkle, because I am getting students now who are withdrawing from courses, and that decision might have been very, very different had they known there was a credit, no credit option available. And is the university prepared to reinstate those students? So, you know, if there's a difference between no credit and W for financial aid, that's a huge difference.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think our administration can answer that, and I don't think the registrar can answer that right now. Possibly, as Jennifer wrote in the chat, I did say this one, we are entitled to do reversal of grades. You can always put in change of grades, so that might be something that one can do. I also want to point out that every chair has a right to waive prerequisites. So if you feel that a student who otherwise couldn't take a course because they got a CR rather than a C or a C minus, you have the right to waive the prerequisite and let them in anyway. But for those classes in those departments, which most of the science department, any of the others, late, please mute yourself.
There's 4 pieces of corn. You can boil them all together or boil.
Andre, please mute everybody.
Leftover broccoli.
Okay. I hope you can hear me now. Yes? Someone shake your head, their heads. You can hear me? Good. Okay. For those departments that do want to enforce the prerequisites, because we see what happened. I mean, I feel horrible for my students. I met them for the last day today, and they're good people. And if they're going to end up taking the next class, I'm guaranteed they're going to fail. 2 days into class, they're going to drop out, and it's very cruel. And I explained this to them, and I told them why I think they should either withdraw or get the F. In any event, but those departments who don't need that strict prerequisites, they can always waive. So yes, you can reverse grades. We have the ability to do that today. And you have the ability to waive prerequisites for those students who you think should be able to get into the course. But for the rest of us, we feel very, very strongly about this. Okay, Professor Sharia, you had your hand up next. Jennifer?
Yeah,
unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, I am. Give me a minute. So just for clarity, because I find this confusing. So for the credit, no credit, is really the cutoff a D minus or is it a D? I thought it was a D.
There is no cutoff at all. A student can elect to get a no credit or a credit for an A. if they wanted to.
I understand, but I'm asking about the, like, because this is where the students decide and where the, but is it a D or is it an F where the cutoff is where they can be credit? Or is it D minus?
An F they can't get.
Well, I know it's not an F, but is it a D minus or a D?
A D minus is a passing grade at Brooklyn College.
Okay, that's my first question.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood that. And the second question that I have for you is, which one are you guys talking about here? I'm a little bit confused. Are we going with number 2 or are we going with number 1?
Right
It
now,
sounds like number 2.
Right now, there has been made, we're only discussing amendment to option 2. That is to exclude prerequisite courses from the CRNC. If this motion passes, then we will vote on this motion. If this motion fails, we then go back to discuss the original motion.
Okay, so I just wanted to add that, I mean, I agree with what Timothy said. You know, these are unprecedented circumstances, and it was really difficult to roll out, period, last spring with the credit, no credit, and explaining it to the students. And I'm just wondering, why is it not possible to put a block on students enrolling in classes if they got a CR, so that at least they could be, you could advise them within a department to see if they got a C minus?
No, we can't. You can't do this on a department by department basis.
I know. I'm saying if it was credit, no credit. The issue that you're saying is that students are enrolling in classes when they have a D minus and they're not prepared for the next level class. I get that, but I'm just wondering I'm just wondering why they just can't be advised if they get a D minus or a D or even a C minus that they should not go on to the next level. Period.
You mean advise the students that they should not?
Yeah, like if they opt to take a CR.
Don't listen to you.
Okay.
We found that the students don't listen to us. The students who got C minuses, Ds, D minuses in the first courses in computer science, in physics, in chemistry, in biology, and in English, okay, all ended up using this as a get out of jail, thinking that they are somehow or other know better than you, because students always think they know better than you, okay? And they actually register for classes. And that means that next semester they will all fail. And that's called being cruel.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, next up, Professor Klein. You have to unmute yourself.
I'm concerned about students taking courses for which they are not adequately prepared. We also spent a lot of time in our department setting minimum grade requirements for courses submitted for the degree. Basically, no less than a C minus in any course. I would be very uncomfortable with students basically doing D work and being given a BA in economics.
Thank you. I see Professor Axon is next.
So this is addressing the amendment. So we have courses that are prerequisites to courses in the major, but there are also courses that students who are non-majors typically take. And when a student is taking that course, since it's kind of the entry into the major, they don't know whether they're going to need it later to be a prerequisite course. So I don't understand how it's workable to exempt those courses from being eligible for credit, no credit, on the student's decision, because the student has to know whether it is going to function later as a prerequisite or it's just a course that they're taking out of interest.
You certainly have the right to waive any prerequisite, so later on you can let any student you want in.
Meaning that even if they select no credit?
That you can do whatever you'd like.
Then what is I don't understand the amendment then.
The amendment is that CR will not satisfy a prerequisite. Only for those courses that require. If there's courses that don't have prerequisites, then the CR is perfectly valid.
And so you're saying that but we could waive that CR and accept it as a prerequisite. Is that the plan?
Individually, you're a chair. You can waive prerequisites for students. You do that all the time. You put in permissions into the system and the students go ahead and register.
Are we able to find out what the grade would have been had it not been a CR?
I have no idea. Does someone know the answer to that question? Is the grade listed on the transcript? It's not. I am told that it is not.
No.
Okay, Professor Suzuki, you're next.
So I thought I understood the amendment, but now I think I'm a little confused on this. So the the option 2 is, am I understanding option 2 correctly? So there seems to be this question of whether it is the course can or cannot be taken credit, no credit. So if it's a prerequisite course, then this prerequisite course, it should not be an option, or my understanding is that we have the option of not permitting that course to be graded credit, no credit. Is that the is that what that the second amendment is? Second option is?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
So if I'm a student and I take a course that is a prerequisite course, do I, as a student, always have the option of taking that credit, no credit, or is it possible for Brooklyn College to designate that this course cannot be taken credit, no credit?
I think that is what the president said is not option 2. Okay. I think what the president implied was that we need to simply say that you can take CR and C, but it will not count as a prerequisite.
No, let me just clarify the 3 options.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could.
Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. The first option is essentially credit, no credit for all classes, full stop. The second option is credit, no credit for all classes except those that the faculty designates are exceptions.
All right.
This faculty could say, and I understand the amendment that's being proposed as courses that are prerequisites for others where a grade is required are the exceptions.
Okay.
The third option is some much more extensive question analysis of what our pass-fail policy is and an attempt to change that.
Okay.
I think the body's kind of coalescing around one or the two, the first option, which is credit, no credit everywhere, or the second option, which is credit, no credit across the board, except for those exceptions. And the proposal on the table, the amendment on the table is exceptions for prerequisite classes where a grade level is required, a certain GPA is required.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I continue on?
Yes,
one other question? So that was my understanding, is that the credit, no credit is basically designated by the course, and it is an option for the course, and it is not an option that is given to the student. As a follow-up to that, I support the idea. I support the amendment that the prerequisite courses be the primary exception. A procedural question, which ties into the sudden nature of this. How soon do we have to come up with that list? Because if we can say this is what we want to do, but we have to formalize that list, and then this would allow us to say that maybe there are prerequisite courses that we want to exempt from this requirement, and then we could do that separately. What is the timeline on that?
I think I have to tell you, we have no timeline.
Okay.
Because Friday morning, I believe the president has to report.
I asked this exact question, Jeff's question of CUNY Central. What has to happen by Friday is simply for the president to say the college is going to do option 1, 2, or 3. That's it. The list of courses is not required by Friday. Okay. So the details of which courses are exempted under what theory is not obligated we are not obligated to deliver by Friday.
That's wonderful. That's very good to know. So I think that will set people in mind. They can choose their courses as they wish.
Since I originally made the amendment, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I agree with everything that has just been said. I really support option 2. What I wanted to say was, I don't think every single prerequisite course should be excluded from credit, no credit. I think it should be on the basis of, we pick certain courses that we know students absolutely have to have a C to move on, or they're going to be, it's really uncompassionate to do otherwise, so that we could have time, as President Anderson just said, to select those particular courses that would be excluded. So we, in my department, would pick CISC 1115. It doesn't mean somebody else who has a course that's a prerequisite, because there's a whole prerequisite structure in every major, necessarily has to exclude that course. So that's my point.
That's very good. Now that the president has said that, we certainly can then go department by department. I'll leave it to the administration to figure out how they're going to do this, to select the courses that they want to exclude from this policy. That seems to be a possibility. Okay, we have a lot of people wanting to speak. Professor Cohen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yourself, everybody. Go ahead.
So one concern is that we're not actually voting on a text of the amendment, because it seems to have changed and some of the assertions actually weren't possible. And I think that's been clarified. But now, since the person who proposed the amendment has now changed it,
so we will reword it.
I think we need a definite wording. But I would like to, I think we need to be very specific about which courses. And I don't think that it's right for departments to necessarily say a lot of these courses are going to be at issue, when students, if we tell them that we're enacting this policy, they're going to expect that it's much broader. I would say English 1, English 2, absolutely. If there are entry-level courses in the science, absolutely. But when you start getting into the specifics of specific degree programs, you really are going against what the original CUNY policy, which was to allow students. Now, I understand what everybody is saying here, and I think the reason why it's more of an issue is because it is extending it into another semester, which I think is probably why the university wasn't really seriously considering this. But the truth is, the students, our students, and all of CUNY students are expecting this. They are going through a great deal. This is an exceptional situation. I would encourage us to be as broad as possible this semester. The one thing I don't like about the proposal, which I'm not supposed to say now because we're talking about an amendment, is that it goes on for an unlimited amount of time. I think we should be very well defined in that. But this amendment, I think, is just way too broad. There are going to be so many courses and so many departments that are going to say these courses are so important. So I would say just what we need. Also, the amount of time to do it. I don't see how each department is going to be able to be pulled.
Let me see who else is on. Professor Wills.
Hi. Okay, so like Yadidja and Doug, I have spent a lot of my career at Brooklyn College on course and standing. And since Yadidja brought up cruelty, I want to speak against the amendment and for the original proposal with perhaps Doug Cohen's revision of while the pandemic lasts rather than indefinitely. It is very cruel that we have an administration that encourages our students to take 5 classes at the best of times on the rationale that this helps them get their financial aid. We have been encouraging students to take more classes than they can actually manage, and we are also in the middle of a pandemic. We also went through an entire semester with an extraordinarily contentious election, and our students aren't trying to get one over on us. They're doing the best they can, and I appreciate that people are worried about prereqs, but we are in the middle of a pandemic. This has been extraordinarily stressful for them, and I think to do anything but do the credit, no credit is really unconscionable on our part. They registered for classes in good faith. They were encouraged to register for as many classes as possible. and they have been struggling. So I think it behooves us to understand the conditions that they are working and living in. Many of them have had their schedules changed at the last moment in terms of the work that they have to do. They are helping their families. They are trying to do their best in very hard circumstances where there might be 4 people taking classes or doing work or whatever in the same room. And sometimes that room is a bedroom. So I don't think that they're trying to get away with anything, which is sort of what I'm hearing in some of the comments. And I think we should pass credit, no credit, and move on and have a larger discussion in the future about what we're doing to our students in terms of setting them up for failure.
Thank you. Professor Saxena?
Yeah, hi. I just want one comment and maybe clarification, because I agree option 1 and 2 are basically what we are discussing it. I can't see the third option. So the option 1 would be a problem, those students who have already W. That means reinstating those would be a very difficult process. Option 2, if you only allow prereqs, which is good or bad, as Doug mentioned, but there could be some department would come up with a whole bunch of list of courses as an exemption. So where we draw the line for the option 2 and what are the reasonable documents one has to provide in saying that, okay, these are the exempted courses and we should consider that way. And again, the students are of no clue about that and they are struggling the way it was described. So I think it is either way, without any clarity, there will be a lot of after effects will come from students' body itself. That's it.
Thank you. Professor Anzola.
A second. Thank you. Just going off what was said at the beginning about how irresponsible it is from CUNY to present these 36 hours before we meet. I think what's most irresponsible is to present option 2 as a possibility. It's shifting the responsibility towards us, like pretending that this is not a binary decision. This is we either go on with what we had planned at the beginning of the semester, or we give the students an option to choose what grade they get. Option 2 is all of a sudden within 36 hours, we need to come up with a system to differentiate when they have an option and when they don't. And we have to message that within 4 days, which is just not doable. I think that this is, we either think that students deserve to choose if they get credit or not, or we think we need to go as planned. Other than that, it's just trying to do the impossible in 3 days.
Thank you. Professor Kavanaugh, Julian? Jillian? Unmute.
Yeah, hi. I apologize, my internet is really funky right now. I just want to say that we discussed this in my department meeting today, and anthropology is in favor of option number 1, credit, no credit. It's the right thing to do for our students in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of everything else that they're going through. So I just wanted to put in a plug for option number 1.
Thank you. Professor Longton?
Yes, well, we discussed this at length in my department meeting today. We have, 2 different majors. One major is highly tiered and it has, a lot of prerequisites from the get-go. And faculty in that major were highly against the proposal. And even then our other major, which is not tiered and doesn't have prerequisites, those faculty were also against the proposal. And our students in our tiered major all apply to graduate school. You can't work in the field without graduate school. And when we even see applications into our graduate program, we need to see students' grades. We can't see something like credit, no credit. It's meaningless.
Thank you. Professor Lynch?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say that we had two different, there were two strains that were in my thinking with regards to course and standing. I was of the mind, as we had heard earlier from Jocelyn, that, the students are under tremendous pressure right now. And, I don't know what everybody else is thinking, but everybody's already articulated that, but they have almost at the breaking point. And the question becomes to me is, who bears the burden of helping them? We're in a position where we can help. We can extend that extra olive branch out to them to best help them. And so, I too had brought this up in the departmental meeting. Some people brought up some of the issues that are revealed in option number 2. But I still believe that if the pandemic was real in the beginning, it's real now, and we have to act. Simple as that.
Thank you. The next one is Maria Perez Gonzalez. Tim, I see you have your hand up, but since you're the chair, I'm leaving you to have the closing remarks.
Yes, hello to all. I just wanted to say that 2 points. One is I feel overwhelmed, and I'm guessing a lot of you also feel overwhelmed, and I'm not a student. So as faculty, I'm overwhelmed, and I see their struggles, and I'm seeing what they're going through. And if I'm overwhelmed, they're like doubly super overwhelmed with whatever responsibilities. We know our students, right? They're working, they're shuffling kids, family life, etc. And again, as was explained by many others, there are very different circumstances depending on, right, your socioeconomic status, where you're at, etc. So, I mean, I think I need clarification. So I would definitely, favor the resolution as it was. I do understand, though, that there are those courses where, there are certain strange things that go on, right? And that we sort of want to know what the next step is in terms of letting them into the next course. So on that end, can you explain to me, and I'm sure others have the same question, the original resolution that was passed in the spring to address this issue? We're still in this pandemic, so I think it still pertains. Although, again, I think it's irresponsible to have left it for the last minute, but I would still support it because our students, I think, need it. What was done in the spring regarding the option number 2, that you're explaining now? What was done then? I would tend to go with whatever was done for the spring. Let's do it now. So if option 2 is what we did in the spring, let's go with that. If it's not, then let's go with what was done. That's what I want to support for the students, because there were certain caveats. I remember that you could see the original grade that was given, and then to allow them into the next course, you make that option. You can still have them take, no credit, but you would see what grade it was, and then you can get them into the next course or not, depending on that. So can someone explain to me what was done then? And that's what I would support for now, because I know those caveats, we had discussed them before, and I think there were those exceptions, which would take care of amendment number 2.
I just want to add, there was no previous motion. What was previous was what CUNY Centrals did. They know we passed nothing.
Right, I know. That's what I'm saying. What is that?
No previous motion. I don't know what exactly what exactly.
Well, I think course and standing might know, because they probably had to deal with that. Who was the head of course and standing that could perhaps the president or the provost would explain what was done last semester, that, if this resolution now is what was done last semester by CUNY, then I think we should follow that, because there were certain caveats that were explained to us in terms of the next level prerequisites.
Yeah, but CUNY just say that the student could take credit, no credit. That's it. They didn't give us any choice. They say the students can do this. That's it.
Right, but I remember.
And we inform our students that they have that choice. And what we encourage people to do was to talk to the students and tell them about the consequences in the next semester and in 5 years down the road. And that's what we encourage people to do, or explain to the student exactly what they were getting into. But CUNY say you have this option. That's it.
Right, and then I think, were allowed to see grades and make those determinations that amendment number 2.
I don't believe that's true.
No.
I don't believe,
remember that discussion.
Maybe in a very small department, you were able to ask the registrar to show it to you, but I don't think that's true at all.
No,
we had no choice. Students who had CR registered for the next course and then all dropped out. Let me move on. There's a tremendous number of people wanting to talk and the hour is getting late. And remember that if we don't come to some conclusion, CUNY will choose for us as they usually do and usually make the wrong choice. Okay, Professor Grayson.
Thank you. I'm a School of Business representative. I'm in the Department of Accounting. In the Department of Accounting, we had some discussion, but I'm not aware of discussion in the other departments. I'm reminded of a saying, for every difficult problem, there is a solution, which is quick, easy, and wrong. I don't think any of us has a magic wand to come up with the ideal solution. You have spoken, other department chairs have spoken, that when students ought to have received a C-, D, or D-, and then got a CR, they then go on to other courses that they are not well prepared for, and in fact may fail. Some discussion that occurred in a department meeting today, if they do get a CR grade, does this lead to a lower level of effort by the students themselves so that they don't even learn as much as they would have? There was a question, does this lead to a lower level of effort by faculty? The word demoralized was not used, but perhaps that was something that should have been considered. And at least one person brought up the question of fairness. Some students have already withdrawn this semester, but if they would have known that they could have gotten a CR, they might have stayed in. There is a possibility that if students get a CR and then are unprepared for later courses, fail those later courses and cannot get a CR, they have to retake them and they may wind up gumming up the system, so to speak, as a bunch of people show up in one particular level of a department. There is also a possibility that they will use up their eligibility for financial aid if this were to happen. There's another consideration, and that is, if we graduate these students, are they sufficiently well prepared to at least maintain Brooklyn College reputation with employers, keeping in mind that our graduates have to compete against graduates of other schools? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jocelyn points out in a comment that the hour is getting late. I do not want anyone to think that we're cutting short discussion, but please keep that in mind. We do need to come to some conclusion. Professor Sowers, you're next.
Thank you, Yadija. I want to echo a couple of things that people have said, which is that I think we have to recognize that there isn't a good solution here. This is a mess. The decisions that we make are going to be messy. Yadija has already articulated this. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're being insensitive to students when we're watching them struggle through classes. In my view, the document unaltered allows us to at least acknowledge that it's the most compassionate situation in the moment, knowing that there are going to be long-term repercussions. And we have to be committed as an institution and as faculty to address those long-term problems. That's going to involve all of us committed, not just the people that we stick in course and standing to help the students navigate sort of through this. Some of them are going to have to go back and maybe retake classes that they weren't prepared for. That's a reality. That's going to happen no matter what grade they get. So I think that, like, I'm hearing two sides as if they're two sides, instead of just acknowledging this is a huge mess and we're all doing the best that we can to help the students navigate that mess. In my view, the document unaltered is the best way to do that.
Thank you. Professor Tinkelman, you're next.
Thank you. Number one, I oppose the amendment and option 2 because I think it's unworkable for some of the reasons that Kathleen mentioned, which is that students change their mind and that we don't have a lot of time to figure out which courses are which, and I have problems with the workability. I have great sympathy for the issue that students are moving into courses for which they're not prepared. And frankly, I think instructors have to think very hard about whether they give a C or they give an F, and try to avoid grades in between, because they're actually cruel to the students because they won't let them advance in their major. And anything above an F, you can't get off your GPA. I would like to call the question on the amendment.
Okay, this is a very, you are right, you can call the question. We're going to need to have a 2/3 vote. This is impossible for us to do on Zoom.
Okay, so I withdraw that and just suggest that we try and get a vote on the amendment as fast as possible. We can still talk about the main question.
Very good. So we have, I see right now we have 3 people left who have raised their hands. Professor Florence.
Thank you. Maria, in response to the question that you raised, I think the passion we bring to the discussion this time is different from that which we brought to the discussion last semester, because then we got the rule, there was a pandemic, we had to respond. In this case, and what is happening today, is that we're bringing to it, in retrospect, experiences that for some are negative, for some others are positive. Yes, we want to support students, nobody questions that. But it is true that some of us are testifying to the fact that we've had students who came to particular classes on a no credit, what did you say, get out of jail card? And then they're not able to handle the material in advanced courses. And that also should be our concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Professor Suzuki, then I'll ask Professor Shortell to make his closing remarks, and then we'll vote on this amendment. Should it pass, it passes. Then we'll vote on the whole thing. If it fails, we go back to vote on the whole thing.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Namalinda's comments as well, and just because a decision was made in the spring when we didn't have any understanding of how this would impact students, how this would affect things, doesn't require that we make the same decision now when we have a little bit more experience in the consequences of making that decision. It shouldn't be considered we made the decision then and we should always make that decision. We have a little bit more information now, and the biggest problem with the decision in the spring is that we have to accept those credit grades as credit towards the major, as satisfying a prerequisite course, and this does lead to this problem of students being in courses where they're not prepared in the course, and they're going to end up failing the course. A couple of people have suggested the possibility of just not giving out D grades, and that only works if it's hard to that only works if the students can't compute their own grade, and so that can work in some areas. In math, it's pretty much impossible. A student gets a 60%, then by the student handbook, if a student gets a 60% in the course, they are entitled to a D grade. I cannot give them an F because they will appeal that. So some of these workarounds are not feasible in some of our disciplines, and so I just want to again reiterate my support for we can allow students to take credit, no credit courses, grades in many courses, but in some courses it is really going to hamper them.
Thank you. Okay, Professor Shortell.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I think here I agree with Brian. This is a mess, and we're trying to make it less messy. And I accept that we all have the best of intentions. I think I would appeal to us to take ourselves more of as much of the responsibility for fixing this mess as we can. And I think we are not giving ourselves enough credit for what we can do with advising to steer students out of trouble. So, and I think it's important for us as a faculty to send a very clear message to the students that we are in fact with them and that we take seriously the notion that this is a student-centered campus, and we're trying to help them succeed. And I think we can do that by extending the policy and then using our resources, such as advising, to try to help the students avoid trouble in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll get the last word in. Just Tim and I both agree, and I think we all agree. I'm very impressed by the conversation we all had today. The only difference seems to be whether what we believe is the best way of being compassionate to the students. Are we compassionate on a short term for this semester, or are we compassionate for next semester and the semester after that? So what we're going to do, just so it's very, very clear, procedurally, I'm going to put up a poll. The poll is on the amendment only. If you vote on the amendment, then we will then have another vote on the document as amended. If you vote against the amendment, then we will have another vote on the document as is, unless someone stands up and wants to amend that further. So right now, you're voting only on the amendment, which essentially is option 2 with a little wordsmithing, as the president said we can do, and however it's going to turn out. So
Could you put up the wording for the amendment?
What?
Could you post the wording for the amendment?
I can't post the word for the amendment because we don't exactly know what it is. It's basically to exclude CRs from courses which are prerequisites. I think that is the intention. I think we all are honest with each other. We know what we mean. We will have to leave it both to the way Central accepts it, how the registrar, and whatever the president is going to say now.
Yeah, so just to sort of clarify on what I take the intent of the amendment to be, which I take to be to align with the option 2, which is, look, we've got credit, no credit, right? We've got credit, no credit, but the faculty, the departments decide if there are exceptions based on classes where a certain GPA in that course is going to be required to move forward. Right?
Yes, but to simplify it, since everyone's pointed out we don't want to go department by department choosing all the classes, which means we'll be here until next year, I think we simplify it by simply saying in any department where a certain grade is required, either C or C minus, the CR won't apply.
Right, where grades are required, right, for that. I think we're saying the same thing. You did, Jeff. I'm just... You're right. Okay. So just to clarify, because I think it might be unclear, the second option or the amendment is not to not have credit, no credit. It's to have credit, no credit almost everywhere except these courses where, okay, everybody understands that, where the faculty chooses, right?
Yes,
okay.
We absolutely are voting for credit, no credit, with the limited exception of certain prerequisite classes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, thanks. And we don't have to identify those classes specifically right now or by Friday. We're going to get that worked out.
Put that poll up. Option 2 is what we're voting as the president has said it, as I said it, which I think is the same thing, which Ellen is shaking her head. Yes, we're saying the same thing. Please vote.
What? Sure. Wonderful. This meeting was supposed to be over an hour and a half ago, but it's not.
Yeah, well,
yes.
Life goes on. You'll have a long vacation between now and next time we meet. Anyone else voting? Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And it appears that the yes has it. Okay, so it is option 2, as we just, in the spirit, we all understand what we're talking about. No one's going to fight over this, exactly what we meant. I assume the president is on our side, you're on our side, we're all on our side. Okay, now, having said that, we now go back to the original document as amended. So now it is amended simply to say, this be it resolved. Oh, you don't see, I didn't share my screen. Hold on, I'm sorry, I apologize. How do I share my screen now? Where am I? I don't even know where I am anymore. I am now totally lost. Where is my Windows? Where's my Zoom? I don't see anybody. Where are you all? Hold on a minute. Oh, there you are. I apologize. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, share everything. So, this motion, which I hope you all can see, has been amended so that the fact that Campbell College extends the CR policy subject to the limitations that said. Okay? Now, it still says, be it further resolved that this remains essentially indefinitely. We don't know whether the Board of Trustees will accept this or not, but unless there's an amendment, then we are keeping this policy where we're going to vote this. So does anyone want to amend this further? Please say no. Nobody? Okay. Jennifer, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but why can't it just read like the option does with exceptions? I think it's a little bit confusing this way. I mean, but maybe I'm wrong. Because it means the same thing, but at least it matches what came from CUNY.
I have no problem if you wanted to say what option 2 says with those exceptions being understood that we've been talking about all day long.
I think that would be clearer. I mean, I personally, then it would match up. It would be easier for us all to explain when we forget this.
Okay, let me ask the president, since she has to tomorrow or Friday tell CUNY. If we just vote option 2, together with it shall remain in effect forever, will the president feel comfortable presenting that to CUNY, understanding that what we mean is what we've been talking about ad infinitum this whole afternoon?
Yes, I mean, I actually don't think we have to vote more. At least in terms of what I'm requested to do as president, it is to report that the governance bodies of the college have had a substantive discussion on these issues, and we have considered the circumstances in which the college would like to have exceptions. I think that's what we just did. We're also going to talk about this some at Policy Council on Wednesday, but I believe that the will of this body
Policy Council, excuse me, is irrelevant to this discussion.
I understand that, but I'm not
irrelevant to this discussion.
I understand your position, Yadidja. It may not be the same as because they said governance bodies, plural. In any case,
no, I'm sorry, I must stand up here. The curriculum is solely in the hands of this body. There is no other body in the governance that allows curriculum to be discussed. I'm sorry. This is a point that we must insist on. Faculty Council is in charge of curriculum. Respectfully, Policy Council can expect an opinion, but curriculum decisions—
That is all that I would be seeking. The request by the university is that the college engaged shared governance leaders, plural, in substantive discussions to determine whether all or some fall courses would be under this. Now, obviously, faculty authority and faculty opinion are what we're doing right now, what we are discussing right now. And I appreciate and agree with you, Yadidja, the primacy of faculty authority in this area. And I also think we have student government perspectives already, because the student government has already expressed its opinion.
I just would ask the president that if we agree that we'll vote on option 2 with the provision that it goes on indefinitely, since no one wants to challenge that, what will be the instructions to the registrar for the upcoming semester in terms of how they will allow students to register for classes? The registrar responds to you.
I'm sorry, for the upcoming semester, for the spring semester?
For the coming spring semester, I don't want any students in
So
my 1-5 who elect to take a CR to be allowed to register for CISC 3115, which is the next course in the series. I'm just using me as an example. How will you inform, if we don't specifically say prerequisite courses, how will you or will you be willing to instruct the registrar not to allow the students to do that? Because that is the intent.
well, I take it that that is the intent here from this body, that prerequisite courses are where a grade is required are the ones that are explicitly made exceptions.
That's all I needed to hear.
Okay, I think we're on the same page. That was what the faculty discussed.
Thank you. Okay, since it's being recorded, we can always bring this back in case CUNY ever decides to ask us what we really said.
I think that's right, Jennifer. Not all prerequisite courses. That's how I understand it. It is prerequisite courses where a grade is required.
Yes, that's
right.
Correct. Prerequisite courses where grades are
required. We will survey that. We will survey that to clarify that list. Not by Friday, but we will identify that list.
It's in the bulletin. You don't have to survey. It's there already. But okay, I'm trying to save you the time. So we need now to vote. Okay. So we are now voting, as soon as I put up the poll, the resolution on CRNC policy. Yes means you're voting for option 2, as the president just eloquently explained it. In addition, we did not change the fact that we would like to keep this indefinitely until we come back on campus. May it be soon. Whether or not CUNY will permit that or not is not my issue right now. Okay, so that's a yes vote. A no vote basically says we have nothing. Okay, I'm going to launch the polling. Please vote. Has everybody voted? No, not yet. Okay, I'm going to end polling, share the results. 61 people voted yes, 9 people voted no, and 5 people abstained. So the motion as amended passes. Now, if you'll give me just 2 more minutes, I know it's very late. I promised under new business that Professor Tremper could make an announcement. Professor Tremper, please.
Very briefly, I'm very excited to announce that Martha Nadell has made it possible for Cornell West to speak to the campus on March 9th as part of the 1619 Common Reader Project. And we also have a promise that Robert Jones, who used to be in the communications office and who graduated from our MFA fiction program, will be reading from his novel during Black History Month on a date to be determined. Also in response in the 1619 Common Reader Project.
Thank you very much. Professor Wasser asked to speak as well. Professor Wasser, you still here? Unmute yourself, please.
I will just briefly say that, am I speaking? I will just briefly say that the letter from the co-chairs of the implementation project to the chairs of the Faculty Council Committee was misguided. I would ask them to withdraw it. I would ask the chairs to ignore it, and the rationale I'll leave for later.
Okay, so just quickly, Professor Wasser is referring that the implementation team asked Faculty Council cooperation on certain issues. They wrote a statement which was distributed to the chairs of Faculty Council committees. If you are curious about it, you're welcome to speak to your local chair. I'm sure the president would be willing if I sent this out to everybody, that thing that I sent to all the chairs. So I will do that so that you all can see what Professor Wasser is referring to. And Professor Wasser, if you have a response, I'll be more than happy if you write it to send it out to everyone, in fact, the council as well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I will do that not today, tomorrow, and send out to everybody. Now, before we leave, first of all, I just want to say I could not be prouder and happier of faculty council today. We had a discussion with very strong feelings about it. It did not break down into name calling. People respected other people's perspective on this matter. And I was truly impressed. We are really the finest governance body throughout CUNY. We've been able to express what we wanted. I am proud of you, and I thank you for sitting through a tremendously long but very, very important meeting. It was very nice seeing you, those of you who've turned your cameras on, to be feeling part of the family. I want to wish all of you very, very happy holidays for those who celebrate, a very, very restful, peaceful, and somewhat quiet, as best as possible, intercession. That according to the governance, you're not on vacation during January, and that chairs have a right to call meetings during January, but I promised my faculty I would not do that. I hope all the chairs respect that. Please do something for yourselves and your families, okay? Stay safe, be happy, reach out to friends, enjoy. I will see you all in February. Have a wonderful month and a half. Bye.
Thank you, you did a great job. That was a lot.
Music is going back on.
Bye.
Thanks, you did.
Bye. Jennifer, I need to talk to you.